Welcome back to Redefine Parenting with your host, Veenu Keller. We want to welcome you to Spanglish World Network and H.E.R Network on Zingo TV, channels 250 and 251. Zingo TV is a free app that can be downloaded on iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire and Fire Sticks, Roku and Roku Sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. Redefine Parenting is a revolutionary approach to nurturing our children. Veenu will bring you live experts, transformative insights, and a fresh perspective, all aimed at helping families worldwide truly understand their children. Together, let's give them a childhood they won't have to heal from. Thank you so much for coming back. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, but nevertheless, we are here again. So welcome back to our show. Again, I just want to introduce my amazing friend, Nancy, who her and I met a few years ago. We just have this amazing connection. And when we talk, we just kind of lose ourselves in conversation. And I wanted to bring her on this show because we wanted to have an opportunity to talk to you, all our listeners across the world, about the foundation that we have as parents for our children. So Nancy, let's just go ahead and dive into this topic.
Okay. I love this topic. And thanks for having me, Veenu. I love you. I'm so excited to even just see your smile. It's like so amazing. You're so radiant. Oh, what an honor to be here. So yeah, this is a big topic. So I'm going to try to stick to the point because I can tend to get passionate. We enter relationships and then a marriage when we haven't done the work on ourselves. So we basically bring our wounded child into a marriage and we have this identity and these stories that have been developed from our childhood, even conception, the womb, infancy on. It's just amazing the work we have to do on ourselves in order to thrive in life. So a lot of us enter marriage basically in survival mode. And we can enter a marriage to try to fix the other person, they're a project, or we want them to complete us. There's so many different issues that we can have when we, commune in a marriage, and we don't realize that we have to go within ourselves to do the work. We can blame our partners, we can project onto our partners and think that we're not the problem. We're not toxic, they're toxic. So we have to do the work individually and then as a couple as well to build a strong foundation. And love is beautiful, we need love, but it's not enough sometimes. So we really have to work at things, so individually and as a couple.
I love that you bring this up because I remember, so I got married at 18 and at 18, I definitely felt I loved the man, I loved him enough to marry him, but I also look back and I also know that he was my escape. He was my escape from my childhood. He was escape from, I felt my mom was like overpowering and I had all these rules at 18 and none of my friends did. And he's the first guy that said he loved me and he was good looking and he was a Marine. And so he had a career. And I found this future pulling me away from my childhood. And I wasn't, and I felt that it literally was an escape as you were talking about,
Yeah, we often want to avoid ourselves and our reality.
Right.
So, we run towards pleasure.
He gave me gifts. Like I have my two sons that I just couldn't imagine my life without. So, it wasn't all bad. But when you say healing that inner childhood, I think that's the journey I've been on for the last 16 years. And as a matter of fact, when I met my current husband that I've been with now for 13 years, I feel like he was almost like my spiritual teacher. He had to laugh and to have fun, just like we did when we were kids. It's like I forgot all that. I was pushed through, work hard to be who I need to be, make sure my kids are respectful, make sure my kids are this, without even hearing what my kids needed. I made this an assumption of what I thought they needed through no self-worth and no self-esteem.
Well, majority of people don't have a healthy self-worth. So, most of us sabotage our lives somehow, whether it's through addiction, people pleasing, or, whatnot. We all kind of sabotage ourselves somehow. So, it's scary to go within. A lot of people want to just get external validation somehow or external pleasures, But to go within and do that shadow work, to face your inner child, to face traumas, wounds, your story, and to know that you have the power to recreate your identity, to recreate your story, it sounds like a lot of work. It's intimidating, like you have to be courageous to do it, but your life is worth it. Why stay in an old story with an old identity that's not serving you, not allowing you to, follow your divine path, your soul's calling, because it holds you back in more ways than in just your relationship. But when we are living from our wounded self, we are so reactive. We're triggered about everything. We may have addictions that are, creating issues with money, or, just abandonment issues. Anything at all can create drama in your relationship. And your children are growing up in this chaos where,
Yeah.
you're trying to your opponents in your marriage. You are not teammates. It's like who's going to one up the other, who's more at fault, who needs to be fixed more, trying to fix each other.
It,
Like
it's all a competition.
it is.
It
It's
all becomes a
unhealthy.
competition. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why I like now that I did so much healing
Mhm.
before I entered into this new, well, it's not new, but it feels new. Like, and
Mhm.
that's what's beautiful. It's always new, right? It's always
Yeah,
that excitement, that growth. And,
beautiful.
people say, we have good days, we have bad days. And I will say we have some amazing days and we have some amazing growth days as well, which I'm sure you understand what those mean, right? Like we have to grow through our stuff because we are individuals.
Mhm.
We are living through, again, the beings that we are to see the pure soul that we have within us,
Oh,
and to
absolutely. Yeah.
heal those traumas. Like I've done, a lot of, like, several journeys with plant medicine just to go inside and, see that little girl and heal it, because I look at, and I've said this on my show many times, and my listeners who come back every week, thank you. They've heard this probably many times, where my older kids will say, "Mom, you raised the twins so much differently." And I'm like, "Thank God. Thank God I do. Because if I
Mhm.
know better, I can do better." And that's really what the show is about, is teaching parents, not that they're bad parents, but if we know better, we can do better. And what else is out there that we're not even in tune to right now?
Exactly. And we have to understand too, like our parents did the best they could with what they knew at the time. They had wounds as well. A lot of people will blame their parents and, hold on to their victimhood because of their parents. But when you're an adult, you're responsible for your own journey. Like, it's not your fault what happened to you, but it's your responsibility to become the best that you can be. And it's an ongoing process. We're never perfect.
Right.
So we just keep learning and growing.
It's one of the things that I felt, um, connected to you about is when I saw you and your husband and your son at a Tony Robbins event, and your son was like dressed in a suit. And I was like, what is this little boy doing? And he was such a little entrepreneur. Like his whole energy was entrepreneurial. And I thought to myself, like, I'm curious how these two people are raising him. And my hallucination of the thought was definitely very unorthodox. Like, it's not, you have to go to a brick and mortar school and you have to get these grades. And if you don't get these grades,
Not at all.
you're going to fail. And if you fail, I'm a bad parent. So you're going to do this. And then I remember I reached out and when we got on a call and we talked about it, and we aligned so much in the way that we
Mm,
see our kids. Like I, you and I both believe in education is important, but we
yes.
also know that life education is even more important.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And Braden is 15 now. And we always supported him. Like, when he had that dream of writing the book with Tony and, changing the world with love and ending suffering, we supported that wholeheartedly. I thought it was crazy because he was 2. So I'm like, okay, well, who am I to say that's not your reality, like that you won't
Right.
have that dream? So we'll do whatever we can, but he never let it go. So we finally went to a business mastery event when he was 9, I believe.
I
And
remember.
yeah, but now he's on a path where he doesn't wear suits anymore. Still wants to help people. He has a deep, deep humanitarian heart. Like he is one of the most empathic, grounded, loving souls. Like I'm obsessed with him. It's probably unhealthy. I probably need help with that. I'm crazy about him. But now he's more like a surfer, snowboarder dude, and he lives in his cool clothes, like not suits. He always says, "Oh my gosh, I thought suits were necessary to be successful. That's why he always wore suits." And he was just little.
Interestingly,
He'd be like 5
right.
putting a suit on to read a book. And I'd be like, what are you doing? Like, come home from school, put a suit on and read a book. I'm like, okay, you don't get that from us. Like, it's so weird. But now he's him. Like, he is so
Well,
him.
he also had a YouTube channel to help
He
other
did.
people. Like, he's always had that servant heart. And here's what's interesting
Yeah.
that I hear you. He had a belief. That's what business people do. That's what successful people do. And I would believe that the belief about business is success. Like, he knew
Mhm.
at such a young age he wanted to be successful, and
Yeah.
he was already taking steps, like wearing these suits, and
I
they were
know.
loud. And but you know what?
They were loud.
He always wanted to stand out, and he did, right? Like, enough for
Mm.
me, and I'm sure many other people, to be like, who's that kid? I want to know him.
Oh, yeah. Even now, like he's wearing his ripped jeans or his surfer dude outfits with his long hair. And, he's, people just, they love him. They love his energy. He just launched a brand called Eternal Kai. And it's like going to be an outdoors brand. He basically, it's not just a clothing brand, it's about connection, it's about adventure, it's about living. And he's branching that into different things he's going to create. But people just like are in awe over his designs. He hand designed all the patterns and everything. And he's just, we're just letting him do his thing. Like, we trust him. And we're like, you're an old soul and you're wise. You're wiser than we are. You're teaching us so much. So I'm like, just do your thing. And he is doing his own coding. He's doing everything. He's unbelievable. He's immaculate about everything. His packaging, his cards, is like, I'm like, wow. He still has that little suits guy in him with that, being so organized and, just putting his heart into it. But yeah, he's
Where
just,
do you think that came, or that grew from, the foundation that you and your husband were able to give him?
well, Luke and I were always into personal growth. Like, we started off with such a strong foundation in our relationship. We were best friends. We had adventure all the time. We'd go on canoe trips. We did all kinds of fun stuff. But we always would listen to, like, all the, like, Wayne Dyer. We listened to Tony. We went to one Tony event before Braden was even conceived, and we loved it. And we'd go to stuff like that, Brendan Burchard events, different things like that when he was little. And but his choice was Tony. Like, he was like, that's the only one. Probably because he felt Tony's heart, because Tony's heart is very,
Yes,
very much about service.
100%.
Like, you can't deny that. He's very much a huge hearted person, very kind, very powerful. But Braden, yeah, he just was so drawn to him. So I think that the strong, loving foundation that we had, but yet we had a driven foundation, but yet an adventurous one. And we were best friends, and we handled conflict quite well back then. We were going through a lot while I was carrying him. Like, my dad was, always in and out of the hospital. He'd had accidents. He had a stroke. Like, we went through so much with him. So I was kind of like, I was a little worried about how things would be for him in the womb, because I feel everything you feel.
Right.
But I had done a lot of work. When I found out I was pregnant, I was like, I got to go deeper. Like, I need to be a good mother, like the best mother I can be. And yeah, I made sure that I was on that path of healing. And I'm not perfect. God, I'm obsessive. I'm like a crazy mom all over. I'm 24/7. And that's probably something I need to work on. But yeah, he had a safe space. We let him be who he is. You wear
Do you
what you
think that
want.
Do you think that evolved, though, from looking at your childhood and Luke's childhood? Because I know for my own self and the journeys that I go on and what I realize about myself, if how I was raised and how I was raised to be a good girl, not loud, lower my energy, be
Mm,
ladylike. Some of it was cultural, and
mhm.
some of it was just the way my mom was raised. So that's how I'm raised. So it's generational, right? And
Yes.
so what I realized is, like, one of the things I was doing to my daughter was trying to change that in her, because I felt it as a childhood wound that I grew up with, and I didn't want her to, right? Because I want to
Yes.
heal our kids, right? Heal our kids now, so they don't have a childhood they have to heal from. Like, that's what I want. That's
Yes.
my mission. That's what I want to do. And so, starting at home, I started to realize that the exact thing that I wanted to shield her from, I was actually accruing for her. And I'm like, gosh, I didn't even recognize it. I did not recognize it until I saw it in part of my journey of my healing of my inner child. I'm like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And so, no matter how much healing we do, I feel like there's still more healing to do.
Oh, we're never done. No, and it comes up in layers. Like, right now, Luke's doing some deep healing work as for his inner child. He never really delved into that too much before. So this is his time right now. And yeah, he's evolved so beautifully, and he's still working on it. And I still have to work on my stuff too, of course. But I started like when I found out I was pregnant. Well, I did before that, but when I found out I was pregnant, I was like, I am not going to screw this kid up. Like, I gotta make sure. But what you're saying makes sense, because when I was conceived, I was the oops child. I was the, oh God, Freedom 95. We don't want this thing, like that. Like my dad always would try to convince me that I wasn't a surprise after all, and that, him and I were best friends and we had the best relationship ever. And, but I think I'm so like in love with him. So I'm like, do I overdo it because of part of that? Or am I just really like, I am in love with him. I just adore him. He's like the easiest kid to raise. Like people are like, oh, you guys are incredible parents. I'm like, he's so easy. Like he's wiser than we are. He's raising his parents probably. Like, he's so smart and so grounded. But yeah, so like I have to be aware of that too, that maybe I'm compensating for some of that. But I don't think so. I've inquired within so many times. I just think he just overwhelms my heart because he's so loving. And yeah, I get like that with animals and stuff too. So, but not as extreme, of course. He's my favorite everything. So,
well, you are very loving. I mean, I think our viewers can just hear that, just in your tonality and your energy. You attract love. You come from your heart where there's not judgment. What I realize is that like when our heart is open, our mind is closed, because our mind's where the judgment is. Our mind is where the ego lays. The mind is the one that says, this is good, this is bad. Our heart just feels, our heart just knows, our heart just sees through the loving eyes of the purity that we are, not through all the faults and the mistakes and, all the bad that we do, and we didn't do it right, we did it wrong. That's all our minds. That's all our ego. That's, and that's what I say is like, when we look at what is the foundation these children were born in. And I love what you say, from the moment that you conceived, it's like, I don't want to ruin this space for them to grow. Right. Like that.
Have to be at my best. Yeah.
Yeah. And I get that, I really do. And understanding the journey, just the spiritual, the soul journey of the child growing in you and having them. And then, okay, now here's the world.
Yeah.
And I can influence you this much now, because the rest of the world gets to influence you this much. I need to make sure that foundation that I send you off into this world is strong. And that's why I literally have this show. Is like, again, I say it every show, this is our boot camp from birth to 18. What values do we want to put in our children? What is the foundation we want to pretty much launch them off into the world from?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. We want them to be resilient. We want them to have that freedom to be all of who they are, not have to wear a mask in society. Yes. We don't want them to be people pleasers or martyrs. Like I was one of those growing up, like the queen, I hung up my crown years ago. Yeah, it's like, you just want them to be all of who they are. And it doesn't matter what they choose to do in life. You just hope they have a beautiful impact. Whether they're saying hello and smiling at people on the street, that can save a life, just people feeling seen. Or if they're on a stage somewhere doing something that, is, with speaking or whatever, writing books, it doesn't really matter as long as they're happy, they're following their soul's calling, and not what we want. Because a lot of parents will project onto their kids too and say, I wanted to do this. My kid's going to do that. Or my kid's going to be an NHL star. He's going to excel in hockey. And then they're at the rink freaking because their kid's not scoring like they want them to. There's just so much pressure put on kids sometimes because of our own wounded selves. The ones who feel like they missed out, or it's too late to pursue their own dreams, or, it's there's a lot of pressure on our kids, and it's not always just from the outside. It's in the family sometimes. And it's all due to our own feeling of not being enough and regret of not following our own dreams. But who are we to say, like, we make plans for our lives, but yet the creator laughs at us and says, whatever, I created you. So if you don't connect with me, you're going to be on paths where like you're going to be zigzagging all over the place. You have no idea why you're here. So make all the plans you want from your brain, your head, your mind. But until you get into your heart, do the healing and connect and start building on faith and true intention and ascension, you're going to be a lost soul. And that's where people are the richest place is the graveyard. So you're on your deathbed regretting your life because you never really found that connection. I never really
Yeah, because
followed
everything
that
died
path.
with you there, right? Like you didn't
Yeah.
follow anything. And, I hear what you say, because also when we open our hearts,
Mm,
we don't live in that scarcity mentality that there's not enough. There's not enough
right.
love. There's not enough connection. There's not enough money. There's not enough things, because
Mm,
everything is enough around you in that moment. The abundance is out there. And I've noticed
yes.
that more lately, going through my own healing journey in the last few weeks, is how much more abundant I feel. And I'm not even doing a lot, and I was like, wow, like feels so good. And the connection I have with my husband and my kids is so much more,
So
because
powerful.
it's that foundation. And I love what you said. It's, about not feeling enough. And I think that a lot of us do that because of the expectations that life puts on us, from our
Mm,
parents, from our teachers, from our friends, from whatever. And when
yes.
we don't feel we can meet that, we feel that we're not enough. And so it's, how do we change that within ourselves? And
Mhm.
like I said, create that strong foundation for our children. You
Yeah, we
know,
have to go deep. Like we
we do.
have to go deep. It's subconscious work, it's energetic work, it's soulful work. I always say, like, I love your soul, but your humanity is pissing me off. Like, I'll be like, I love your soul. Your soul is innocent. Thank God I can connect to your soul. But your humanity's got to shift. Like, you've got to get in here, and like I have clients, that they're so terrified to start the work. They start with the energy healing and stuff like that, and they think, I'm done. Right? I'm like, well, you have CPTSD, so we got a journey to go through. Like, you're
Right.
not done after a few healing sessions, but
Mhm.
it's a journey where you'll be supported, right? Like, you need to feel safe. Just like our foundation for our children, they need to feel safe. They need to be nurtured. They need to know that they can have a voice and that they matter. I mean, I have a ton of clients that have felt like they never mattered since they were kids. They've had the belt, like, getting whipped and shut your mouth and, whatever, like stop being loud and just like stop dreaming, stop fantasizing about your future, your life, whatever, and having imaginary friends. Like, you're put into this little cage as to what, is okay. So we grow up stifled, and no wonder we don't feel like we're enough, because we can never really truly be who we are, and we don't feel accepted or safe. Well, you're going to hide who you are, and you're going to wear that mask for approval in society. And it just screws us all up. We've all had it to an extent, right? For the most part. But when we're aware of it, at least we can change it.
Right.
So we
Sometimes it
can
feels like
change
we're
anything.
muzzled. Sometimes it feels like we're muzzled, right? Like we can't
Yes.
speak or be or see or hear or do because
Mm,
of what others will think. And I even think about this with some of my clients that I work with, where the parents feel that their kids have to be a certain way, or it's a reflection on who they are as a parent. And
yes.
I try to tell them, I said, your child, no matter what you give them, here's one thing they always have, is free will.
Mm,
They literally always have that free will. So when in front of you, they can act this certain way. And then as soon as they walk out that door, they have free will that kicks in. And that goes to the choices that they make as well. And the choices that they make may not be the way that your belief system is or what you would have wanted for them, but they made the choice. So what can you do to support them through that? I always tell my
exactly.
kids, I don't like the choices you make, and I will support you through the choices you make. Because they need to know that that is their walk. They have a walk in this world as well. And it
Mm,
doesn't mean that I'm a good or a bad parent. It's like I have clients that, more than one client that will help their kids do homework, which means they'll do the homework for them. I'm like, you're not doing them a just by doing their homework.
no,
And I said,
no.
and the truth is, you're doing it because you don't want it to look bad on your kids, because then you feel bad as a parent. And they're like,
Mm,
yes. And I'm like, so we need to change that. Again, it goes back to the foundation.
yes. Everything's about the foundation. It's so incredibly powerful. Like, if you're, disrespectful to one another and calling one another names, or talking bad about the other parent to your kids, or whatever, like just bashing or not accepting one another, not creating that safe space for your partner, not having empathy, and you're just blaming, what kind of spouse do you think your kids are going to possibly end up with? Like you tolerated disrespect or you created disrespect. Well, your kids don't know what respect is. They don't have that example. Like they're in a place where it's constant fighting or chaos or fear. Like even worse stuff can happen in a home. And yeah, we're setting the example. It doesn't matter what we tell them. We can tell
Right.
them, oh, you're worthy, you're this. But if you're tolerating crap or if you're addicted to something, you're setting that stage. You are setting that example for them. And that's really where it's
Absolutely.
at.
Absolutely. So what would you say to parents that are listening now that want to shift that want to have that shift in their foundation? Like, I guess if I was a parent listening to this show, how would I know if my foundation is good or not?
Okay. Depends how reactive you are to your kids or how triggered you are by things. If it's a peaceful, calm atmosphere where you can have, peaceful disputes, whatever, not yelling and screaming and freaking. But if you can just have discussions and come to a peaceful place with your kids and accept their, outlook on life or your partner's outlook on life, and there's a safe place where you're not invalidating each other, you're actually listening and having empathy, supporting each other emotionally, then you know that you're doing the work, like you're doing a good job. If you are, bashing them or, being super highly triggered or you're throwing things, or someone's addicted or abusive, if you're in violence and cheating and all that, like there's so much chaos sometimes. It's obvious then, right? But sometimes it's not so obvious. We don't realize that we are, even being people pleasers can screw your
Right.
kids up because they see that as, that's a role that you're teaching them. So something simple like that is serious enough to actually cause dis-ease and dysfunction in the body. Like Dr. Gabor Mate, he wrote a book about that, when the body says no. Well, it's all about people pleasing and being a martyr. So if you're teaching your kids that and say they get sick with MS or cancer or whatever, or you do, like that's something small enough to you, but yet it's big. So we can think something's not so bad, but it's actually much worse than we can possibly imagine. So it's something simple like that. But obviously, if you're in a place where there's physical violence and your kids are growing up in a space that's unhealthy and terrifying, then you need to get the right help to get out of there. To me, that's not a place where you can even do the work. Neither
Right.
one of you. You're like there's serious psychiatric stuff that's needed or whatever. Like that's not even the scope of what I work on. I'm just like, get the hell out, right? But like you need support. You need to find support to get out of that. But if you're triggered and stuff like that, or you're, addicted to something, it could be food, it could be shopping, it can be alcohol, it could be anything. Any addiction at all is showing that you're trying to numb yourself.
Mhm.
And so I would start going within. If you have any of those types of issues, just start going within. Like find a coach, a coach that works with you on all levels of your being, your subconscious, your conscious, your energy, your wellness, your habits, everything, and can also work with your family. It's really ideal. But if you can find someone who can actually just help you to become whole and complete, where you can embrace your divinity, embrace your humanity by healing your inner child, healing traumas, not seeking anything outside of yourself, actually feeling whole and complete within, you're going to find a peace and a liberation that you never even dreamed possible. And that's where the magic will happen. And we all have work to do. So you're not broken. You're not a terrible parent. You're not a loser. Like there's nothing wrong with you. It's just to be at your best self. Why wouldn't you want to do that for your children, but for yourself as well? Like your children are seeing everything you do. They're hearing every word. They're feeling the energy of everything that you are feeling and experiencing. So,
I
it's worth
love
the
it.
work.
I love it. And I also feel like our kids match us, right? They
They
match our
do.
energy, they match our tonality, they match
Hmm.
triggers. Like they grow up matching us to know how the world works.
Yes.
And there are people though that I've seen like even working with some people that grew up in awful, awful homes and they're okay. Like it's so
Hmm.
interesting how they're like, well, my neighbor grew up like this and their one parent killed their other parent and they grew up fine, and I said, well, define the word fun. Like
Yeah.
on the outside, do they have it together? But how do they deal with situations that come up? How do they cope with the emotional stress that shows up in our life. Because let's just face it, emotions flow in and out of our life all the time. And it's how are we
Powerful.
absorbing them
Yes.
and, either being triggered or not being triggered, or reactive versus responsive, And so I think what you're saying is so needed right now for people to understand. It's like, how do you feel in that environment? If you want to check in, if you're a good foundation, check in with yourself. How are you feeling in that environment?
Yeah. Without blaming or shaming anyone, including yourself.
Yes.
Just going within, just being real. Your feelings tell you so much. That's really the secret, is how you feel, right? Yeah. So like we have so much built up from our childhood and from the womb. Like it's unbelievable. I've had so many clients that weren't planned, so at conception that was the spirit of rejection right away, and abandonment and all kinds of stuff. And yeah, they've struggled their whole lives. And then the relationships with their kids, we're trying to fix that right now. And it's a process, but it's not impossible. I mean, you see miracles happen. It's just, you can't give up,
Yeah.
it's all about intention and, recognizing that power that you have, and connecting with your creator and building on that faith. Because that's where miracles happen. That's the miracle creator, the miracle worker, right? So
Yes, 100%. And I've shared this too, is that my twins definitely were not planned. And yet I always tell them, like, they were never a mistake though either. Like I've always
no,
said, they're the blessings I didn't know that I needed and I wanted.
yeah, that's
They're
beautiful.
2 blessings. And I always say that because my kids are like, "Oh, they were your oops." And I'm like, there's nothing oops about them. Like, God knew I needed those blessings. He knew, I just didn't expect to have a blessing. But sometimes that's what a surprise is. It's the unexpected surprises that are your biggest blessings.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
that's how they were. And at first I was not connecting. I was like, what is going on? And all of a sudden it's kind of like I went within and I'm like, wait a second. These are 2 amazing gifts that God chose me to connect with and bring into the world and guide. And I can't even imagine my life without them. And I'm grateful that I had that connection during their process of development. It wasn't after. Some people like, okay, well, they're here now, so let me get used to it. My
Yeah.
connection during the time that they were growing inside of me. So I'm very lucky that I had that realization, because
They
I couldn't
felt it
have.
all.
Yes, yes,
They
yes,
feel everything in the womb. Yeah. So that's
yes.
beautiful.
I did
No,
this
special.
work called the baskets. It's the 4 baskets. I'm
Okay.
not sure if you're familiar with them or not.
No.
And so the first basket is the moment that your child's conceived. And then
Mm,
the second basket is in utero. And the third basket is the delivery process. And the fourth basket is the moment they take their first breath. And every basket, if it's damaged, it's going back to that inner child to heal those baskets.
yeah.
And it's such a beautiful concept. I learned this years ago when I was going through becoming a Diksha giver, a blessing giver. And they
Nice.
had that training with that. And that's when I learned that the first foundation these children are going to be born into is that moment of conception.
Yeah. Very important.
And I
Yeah.
was like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And
It's
like
powerful.
what happens in the womb, these children carry through life until they can heal through it.
Hmm.
And then there's a connection to the person, right? That they also have to heal through it.
Yes. So true. So powerful. Really. It's like just to have the awareness of that is the first step.
Yes.
Right. And then you can take baby steps along the way. It doesn't happen overnight. And it's not a straight line. It can be crazy sometimes, but it's so worth the work. It really is. And you're teaching your children to go within and do the work as well. Because like, well, we're lucky we're in a time in the world where we are aware of this. Like our parents and grandparents, they didn't grow up in this. They didn't have any awareness of it. So it was difficult for them to
I
really.
think that the times that our parents grew up, it was a world full of rules and
Mhm.
obligations that this
Yes.
is how you have to do it, or this is what happens. It's rules follow consequence, rules follow consequence. And
Yeah.
we are so privileged and lucky to be able to have the free mind to think and speak and be
Mhm.
who we choose to be in that moment. And it's funny because I feel like the people I get to talk to now, when they communicate with their parents, it's such a divide because their parents are like, "What are you doing? What are you thinking? This is so wooey fooey magic stuff." And it's really not. Like, if
No,
you really go
it's
into,
not.
I have another show on Monday nights with my friend Chuck, and we talk about frequencies in our body.
Mm,
And I liked how you said dis-ease, right? That's disease. There's
yes.
the dis-ease in your body
Yes.
is created when your frequency is consistently low.
Absolutely. Everything has a frequency. Every word, every intention, every action, every object, our bodies, or everything. Like, everything is energy for sure. I love that you have that show.
Yeah. So how do you, for our listeners, how do we help them to, once they go within, how do we start to help them create a better foundation? Because to me, it's never too late. Like, there's, it's, I love that saying, when was the best time to plant a tree? Probably 10,000 years ago. When's the second best time? Right now,
Right
today.
now. It's never too late. Like, look at Louise Hay. She started Hay House when she was, what, 68?
Really?
So, and yeah, and like it was present in 86 countries by the time she passed away at 92 or whatever she was. So, like, by now it's even grown more probably. So, it's never too late. And, when you're still breathing, there's still hope. And like when you build on faith, then you can take those steps with less fear, right? Knowing that there is a higher power, there is a reason for your heartbeat, there is a reason for your breath in your life, and that you do matter. No matter what you've been through, no matter what you've done, we've all made mistakes. All of us are human, right? We have to let go. We have to let go of the judgment. We have to let go of the shackles from the past and allow ourselves to gently go into our hearts, because it can be scary to go in there, and just start to feel. And maybe you need someone present with you, because it can be pretty intense sometimes to go in there, and you don't want to have like a healing crisis or anything like that. You need someone to guide you, maybe, if you've been through a lot. But the first thing to do is just let go of the judgment. Recognize that you are human. You've had life experiences that have caused some pain in your life or caused some illusion in your life. You're living in a fear-based mindset where you're not able to be in your heart fully. A lot of people, I've had clients say, "Oh my gosh, I finally found my heart." They're in their 60s, 70s. It's never too late. Your heart is here and it's beating with purpose. And there's something beating your heart that loves you and breathes life into you, that loves you. So there's an unconditional love that's flowing around you that is keeping you alive for a reason. So you're obviously here to still do the work and to take those gentle steps. And don't expect it to happen overnight, but have compassion for yourself as you are starting the process. The biggest thing is to have compassion. We
Yes.
have to. We can
Yeah.
have it for other people so easily, but to have it for ourselves it can be so tough, right? We're so hard on ourselves, but why be hard on yourself? You're the one soul, the one being that has been there from the first breath and will be there till the last breath. So you got to be your own best friend somehow, right? So it's really worth doing the work. But I would start by just even connecting to your breath. Start with prayer and simple meditations. There's all kinds of guided meditations, and whatever you're drawn to, just simple meditations. You don't have to listen to anything crazy and go, too much into the shadow alone. It's not necessarily a great idea, but just simple things. Connecting to your breath, being mindful of your breath. Asking every morning, why am I here? Ask God for clarity, or your creator, whatever term you use. I love the name God, I do, but you can use whatever term you want. We love you no matter what. We are all one big family. So, yeah, just asking every morning for that guidance, for that love to flow through you. And you can start to feel that with your breath and your heartbeat. Just simple things. Doesn't have to be complicated. If you had a complicated life, I would really suggest getting someone who's skilled to help you. There are coaches out there who are working with trauma that maybe shouldn't be. I've heard some stories. Like, make sure it's someone credible working with you. Doing timeline therapy and stuff like that. You need someone skilled to guide you through that. So don't just go with anybody. Okay. Read
Right.
reviews or connect with them and trust the resonance and the frequency, right? You'll know in your heart if you can trust them. And yeah, get a counselor if you want to, whatever you want, get the support that you need.
Yeah. And I remember like when I first started out, it's like, and we didn't have YouTube then, but as soon as YouTube came, it's, just, I started out with the Ho'oponopono prayer,
Yes.
just really starting out with the Ho'oponopono. There's a lot of on YouTube, just like the chant of those 10 words. I'm
Beautiful.
sorry, please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. My kids know it. My kids have been doing it since they were 2 years old. That's their nightly prayer.
Yeah.
And, it's because if anything, it's ending their night with forgiveness and love.
Yes.
And because I feel like we have been raised to be self-feeders instead of self-builders.
Mm-hmm.
And it's time that we build ourselves up. And when we talk about self-worth and we talk about self-esteem, it's if you can't like yourself, where's the expectation for other people to like you?
Exactly.
And why do you feel like you don't belong with other people? We need to learn how to belong with ourselves too.
And that is a beautiful point, because why worry about what other people think of you when most of them don't like themselves anyway? So if they don't approve of themselves, who cares what they think of you? Like, most people don't like themselves. So if you're worried about what they think of you, like, let it go. Just let it go. It's not worth it. Live your
So
life.
with you having your 15-year-old, have you ever felt, has he come to you with the struggles of worrying what other people think about him, about you guys? Because you don't think Orthodox. Like, you're not like, oh, we're Christian, we got to go to church, which no judgment, because that works for families. I have a lot of families that
Oh,
are
it does.
Christian or Mormon, and you know what? That's their way to God, and I support that for them, their love. And so I know that you guys are not like that. So how does he work through that, and how do you support him through that?
Okay. Well, he's always been, he loves Jesus. He's into all, the Christian stuff. Like, not hardcore. He doesn't know the Bible even. I go to church every Sunday. I love it. I found this church that is so fun and beautiful, and like, I love them, but they love everybody. They accept everybody. We have homeless people coming in there. We have every culture in there. Like, everybody's just wow. Like,
That was like the
and
church I
yes.
went to. I used to go to Unity Church before our
Okay.
pastor died years ago, and it was the same thing,
Oh, I love it.
you
And it
know?
is Christian based. And
Yep,
I
ours
do,
too,
yeah,
ours
I
too.
do lean towards it, I guess, because that resonates with me so beautifully and deeply. And I love the worship. I love the prayers. I love all the energy there. It's very spirited. So I really, really enjoy that place, because there's no pretension there. There's nothing, you don't have to be a certain way. And it's just all love. Like, I really can't say enough. It's
So beautiful.
just been amazing. But with Braden's always been the type to stand up for people. So when he was in the regular school system, and he's going to hate me for even talking about it probably, but when he was in school in grade 4, he was always standing up for disabled kids because they were getting bullied. And so he would stand up for them. And it was breaking his heart. Every day I'd pick him up from school, and it broke his heart. He could not imagine why these kids were doing that and how they could possibly bully anyone but disabled children. So, and there's quite a few in this school, and it was hurting him so much. So I'm like, you know what? And that's when he was focused on a book at the time, but he's like, Mom, I want to be homeschooled. Like, I'll do online schooling so I can focus on my book. And I'm like, okay, you know what? This year has sucked, and I knew this school wasn't going to be good for him. When I would drive by that school to bring him, like, pick him up from the other one that he was at from till grade 3, and this was the grade 4 to 8 school that he started going to. I knew all those years. I'm like, he's not going to that school. I don't like that school. I don't like the energy. You'd feel the frequency when you're driving by it. I didn't like it. But my husband and mother-in-law convinced me that try it, right? It wasn't a good year. Like, he was okay. He's very strong and resilient, but I knew the energy. I knew his heart.
Right.
So he's been online school, like doing online schooling ever since. He's built his business. He's, really, really confident, like, God, but from his heart, like, just grounded in who he is. He's a snowboard instructor. He's just doing so much in his life that I don't think he would have done all that being in that school, especially, and then moving forward. But he doesn't worry about what people say about us at all. Like,
Nice.
he was like, when he was younger and in school, it was harder, but now it's like, all are,
What did you do to support that? How do we help the parents out there that hear this? That's like, I want my kids to be like that. I want my kids to realize that what other people think about you is none of your business. Like, how did you install that in your son?
Well, I think the biggest thing is when you realize that people don't like themselves. Like, to me, that just, like, if they don't like themselves, how do you expect them to like you or approve of you? And why would
Right.
you waste your life or your energy worrying about that? When you're you, like he understood from a young age that, your inner world reflects your outer world, like they work together. So if you don't like who you are, people are going to treat you with disrespect. They're going to bully you. They're going to, do whatever that's insulting to you. They're not going to be good to you at all. So he understood that from a young age, that, to build that resilience from within. But I had him do mirror work when he was like 2, like look in the mirror and I love you, Brayden. It was so cute. But like all kinds of stuff like that, just little simple things, not like intensive things. But, he started doing that when he was young, and he's always been pretty confident. But now it's like we just trust him. We trust him with his choices. But he's an easy kid to raise. I mean, there's some kids that maybe want to fit in more, and he doesn't really worry about that so much. But because he's strong in who he is. So I think really
That's a beautiful foundation that you and Luke have raised him in, because again, when he goes on to create his family,
yes,
have his kids, that's the beautiful foundation, and that's where your foundation's strong. So it creates a strong foundation in him, which that's the generational stuff we want to see, right?
yeah. There's a lot of generational trauma, right? It passes down the line. So, I've had it in my family. Luke's had it in his. He's working on his stuff now. I worked on mine a while ago. I'm not perfect. We're not perfect as a foundation. We've had our challenges, even just recently. We've had some that we've had to grow through. So, it's not about being perfect. I don't think anyone could possibly be perfect anyway.
Right.
But Brayden handles things very peacefully and very groundedly. So, like, even though we were going through things, he's just so grounded and wise. Like, that's why I always joke that he's raising us, because like he's just so wise, and he just focuses on breath, and he focuses on the logical and spiritual aspect of things together. Like, he's got that balance of the right and left brain, like the right and left hemisphere. Like, he's in a whole brain state really majority of the time. So I think that really helps him.
Right.
He's I think that's what it is. And we can do that just in a posture. We can be in a whole brain state. Like, you just cross your fingers, intertwine, like cross your hands, intertwine your fingers, just intuitively, cross an ankle over the other. That's a whole brain state. So you can visualize what you want in vivid colors using all of your senses. So, like, what you hear, what you smell, what you see, what you feel, like textures, temperatures, you can get into all that with bright, vivid colors and just feel like it's real. And that's being in a whole brain state. And when you get your emotions into that state as well, like just feeling it all, how it would feel to live that way, or to have your family that way, or, whatever you need to feel and visualize to make your life more whole and complete and loving and build a foundation. You could do that together as a couple, but just the whole brain state. You're joining both hemispheres when you do that simple posture.
I
So
love it. So when did you start teaching him about these postures?
I don't think he's ever done that posture.
Okay. I was like,
he's never done that, but that's something I teach my clients or whatever. But yeah, I've never, Brady maybe knows about it now, but.
Well, I mean, but like teaching him about, like, maybe not postures, but like about breath and about going within. Did you start that when he was really young?
Yeah, I tried to. He never really fully accepted my teachings that much. Like, he would be like, Mom, whatever. Like, I know this stuff. I don't need this. So ever since he was little, he would never really engage in that. Like, I think I was more needing that than he was. Like, I guess he's an older soul than I am, probably. That's why. Like,
right.
I mean, I've delved into all kinds of stuff on this path, always seeking. He got his Reiki certification when he was little, and he was like, I don't need this, but I got him to do it because my friend wanted to train him. He's never used it. So
when you describe an old soul, like even the stories you describe about him, like connect us to that he's an old soul. And it has been so amazing just having you here. Like I said, like we could just go on and on and on, because there's so many topics that we open up in this conversation with you, just sharing your heart, sharing your beauty. It's thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
really
Thank you for
supporting
everything.
our listeners with understanding that the foundation is where it all starts for our kids. And if we want our kids to do better in the world, we need to check ourselves, right? We need to go within and really look at where's our heart, where's our purpose, and who do we need to be to project that into our children and heal.
Yeah. Yeah. We're all on a journey together. And thank you, Veenu. You are so radiant and beautiful and so full of wisdom and love. I really appreciate your energy and gorgeous soul. I
Oh,
just love
thank
connecting
you.
with you.
You
Thank
too, my
you.
friend. We'll definitely have you back because I know that there's other topics that we can delve into. So thank you so much for being here, and I hope to have you back soon.
Thank you so much. Bless you. Bless you all. Thank you so much. Lots of love.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Redefine Parenting with Veenu Keller. Follow her on Instagram at Veenu Inspires. To learn more about Veenu, as well as download her free ebook now, go to www.veenuinspires.com. This show can also be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out www.spanglishworld.ca for all your news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it.